Hello, and welcome to the Coffee and Craft podcast. Yes, I've decided to keep the name. Got my coffee, and as the thumbnail and the title of this video suggests, we are having a sort of mid-year review, business-wise, business-wide, and personal business, because we're just having an informal chat. This podcast is, if you are new here, something that I do at the end of each month, and it's for the community. So it's less edited, it's more waffly, it's more laid back. It's our water cooler moment. I might be a bit late to the whole mid-year review thing, but I wanted to film this back at the beginning of July, and I can't even remember why I didn't do it. I think I was just overwhelmed. Well, we're here now, so it's nearly the beginning of September. Actually, at the time of filming, it's the 25th of August, and I have just launched my autumn shop drop collection, whatever you want to call it, and I am pooped. Really tired. I always forget how much energy goes into launching something and how much work is involved, even in the smallest of collection launches. So, But yes, Coffee and Craft podcast. There had been questions in the last episode as to whether or not I was going to change the name, and it turns out you lot quite like having the coffee aspect to it, and so I was going to call it the Coffee and Craft Business podcast because that's pretty accurate as to what this is, but then it got too long. So actually I'm going to ask you, do you want it to be the Coffee and Craft podcast? Bearing in mind I'm not actually crafting, because if this is a true podcast, you can't see that. Or do you want it to be the Coffee and Craft Business podcast? You decide, because I can't. Help me, because my brain is a puddle. Okay. Now let's get to the topic at hand, which is sort of where are we at with our business mid-ish 2023? Well, compared with the start of 2023, I am doing okay-ish. I'll explain more. Okay, so my revenue has increased, and when I'm talking about revenue, I'm referring to figures that describe my baseline, so not the revenue that I would make on a really, really good month, but just sort of like my average baseline, because I think that's a more accurate representation. And it's increased, and my profit, after, revenue is one thing, but after materials and fees and costs and all of the things, my profit, my takeaway has increased, which was what I wanted. That is wonderful. But so have my outgoings. And I'm willing to bet that you're probably sat there going, haven't they though? And when I tell you how frustrating that is, I'm sure you can understand, but it's just really takes the edge off my sort of gold star, well done me moment for increasing the things, because I've worked really bloody hard. And if I could have gone back in time to this time last year and said, hey Kim, guess what? We increase our revenue, we increase our profit. It is now X amount. I'm not telling you what X amount is, because that's my business. Well, actually, it's because, going off on a tangent, last year I was doing these like revenue roundups every month, and it was really nice, and I got to sort of share that with the community. Fortunately, it was a bit more popular than I expected, and it kept on attracting people who were, say... So yeah, not to get too salty about it, but no, I'm keeping my figures to myself. X amount it is. But past me would have been really, really happy with the figure. I would have been like, oh really? It's working, I'm doing it. And I would have got all squeaky about it and all of the things. But then if I'd also said, yes, but your outgoings, the bills, everything is gonna go up. In fact, your outgoings are now Y amount. Well, that would have been my answer, why? So sometimes I think it is better that we don't know what the future holds for us, because otherwise we would... Well, for a start, I would have to explain to myself why I'm wearing a scarf and a jumper in August. So yes, really happy with what I have achieved. And when I think about it, it does bring a smile to my face. But then, I'm not going to lie, the shine is a little bit dulled by the fact that even though my figures have increased, because of the outgoings, it means that I'm kind of in the exact same spot. And this is where things start getting a bit tricky. Do you know, I am actually going to have to take the scarf off. Can you imagine if I rocked up and I was a professional? But where's the fun in that? Right, so yes, what's the answer? Well, it does mean that I'm going to have to kind of adjust the sales again. For those who are new-ish here, you may or may not know that I had to do a hard and fast pivot of my business last year. Pivot became a whole thing. I still can't think of that word without cringing and laughing all at once. But it was my Etsy shop specifically that I was pivoting because I didn't have a website. And the whole idea around that was that I was at the time releasing periodic shop updates or collection launches like I have today. But then in between those, there would be quite a chunk of time where I wouldn't make very many sales at all. And then I'd release this batch of stuff and then a whole load of them would sell and then there'd be nothing in the shop again. So the way Etsy works, it meant that sales were like, yay, no, and then no for a long time, and then yay, and then no. And it wasn't a good way to do Etsy. Is there a good way to do Etsy these days? I don't even know anymore, but it definitely wasn't last year. So the pivot was an attempt to bring in consistent sales in between the collection launches that didn't require me to do a great deal. And the way I did that was that I brought in a bunch of more need-esque items, which ended up being supplies that related to my niche, which is hand embroidery, FYI. And it worked really bloody well, if I do say so myself. So well that I am still making consistent sales a year on, even though I have now pivoted my attention to my website as opposed to Etsy. And I don't give Etsy almost any attention. I really should though. But yes, to say that the pivot worked, that's the point I'm trying to make. So since starting my website in March of this year, I've been trying to build up a decent collection of evergreen items to have in the shop. And I'm pretty much there. I think in springtime, I'd like to bring in some more items and then maybe again next summer. But I think I've got my evergreen items set up now for the year and I'm very happy with that. And that does open up time slightly, time that I have been spending on building up those evergreen items. And when I say evergreen items, for me that just means items that I can make again and again and keep stocked rather than them being sort of one-of-a-kind items or something like that. You know, they're not just sort of a flash in the pan, they're going to stay there. And what I've been trying to do is build up items that kind of tag each other in or out over the course of a year. So you've got items that will be relevant at the start of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. And so because I have reached that goal, that's opened up some time that I already know what I'm going to do with. I'm going to try and reintroduce a course into the mix of revenue streams. I did that a couple of years ago, but I had to shelve it because it was one thing too many. I couldn't run the shop and this channel and the course all at once. The YouTube channel was relatively new at the time and I was finding my feet with trying to balance the time for both the shop and YouTube, so the course had to go. But now I think I found my feet and I'm going to tentatively bring in this new course and see if I can bring in a third income stream. My last course was on Etsy, for those who can't remember. This one is not going to be about Etsy. It's not going to touch Etsy. It's not going to be that kind of a course. It is going to be relevant to this community, I hope, if I'm doing it right. I can't really go into much more detail than that because, I don't know. I've got like the bare bones set up and I need to flesh that out. Linked to that, I would also like to try and get my other channel monetized so that I can move, like if you look at the below this video, you'll see that I've got my hand embroidery work linked to this channel, which is not ideal. I've spoken about that in the past. That was never the intention. I had always wanted to have those items up on my other channel because my other channel is the stitchy, creative, hand embroidery, knitting, that kind of thing. And most people here are here for the business chat, talk about mailing lists, websites, Shopify, Etsy, etc. Which is fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just not a great fit. But if I can get that one monetized, I can move these items over there and I can have my course linked to this. That's my thinking. And then I can do videos around that as well. It's just a better fit. See, I've got it in my head. I've got this idea of how my business should look. And it's nothing like chess. I don't know why my brain's jumping to that metaphor, but I need to move the pieces in place because right now they're in the wrong places. So over the course of the next few months, I'm going to try and move pieces into the right places. That was a terrible metaphor. I do apologise. I'm disgusted with myself. However, I did say at the beginning of this episode that I was tired, so I'm going to blame that. And also with this channel, I want to introduce more, well, I say introduce more community content, like these podcast episodes. These are videos that I make for the community. So I really enjoy them because they're more sort of relaxed, easygoing, and I just find I can get more creative with them a lot of the time. Podcast episodes, not so much, because they have to be listenable. I can't show you things. I could describe them if I was to do that, but it's not really a show and tell video. It's a listenable video. People are supposed to be able to have them running in the background without having to look at the screen. And if you were to look at the screen, you'd just see my face. Hello, I'm waving. That's the whole point of the podcast. But I do like the show and tell aspect to it. And I did experiment with vlogs earlier in the year. Can't remember how, not that all too long ago, maybe a month or two. That was really fun. I really enjoyed it. They were weekly, which was probably a mistake because that was a lot of work. But if I was to do a sort of monthly vlog or thereabouts with a community in mind, I think that could be really fun. And that's kind of what I've got planned for my business and this channel going forward. And then obviously we're jumping back again, but at the start of this year, getting a bit more balance on this channel was one of the things I really wanted to do. The balance is getting there now. I think I'm getting a nice balance, but I do need more community content. And I like the idea of splitting that between podcast episodes and vlog videos because I think that's a nice balance and something for everyone there. I won't be doing the weekly vlogs though. That was a lot. How on earth I managed to do, what's the Christmas thing? Vlogmas. I did that on my other channel. I've deleted the videos off that channel now because it was just it was something I wanted to do to see if I could improve my editing skills by forcing myself to do it every day. I wanted to try and see if I got better. I don't think I got better. I got faster, which you could argue is better. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm a better editor for it, but I can do what I could do before but faster now off the back of doing Vlogmas. And it was fun. It was fun. Another reason why I think I was able to do it was because last year here in the UK we had almost constant Royal Mail strikes. Royal Mail is the UK's main mail service. Oh no, words are disappearing from my brain. That's never a good sign. But yes, so I closed my shop early to make sure that everybody got their items on time because I didn't want to deal with the stress. So I was just like, no. So I had most of December without the shop to worry about, which gave me the time to do Vlogmas. Would I do it this year? I would love to, but I think the shop is going to be open for as long as I feel comfortable with. I do usually shut it a bit earlier than most because I don't want to deal with last minute customers. That's just a tip that Etsy always give you every year to try and, how do they put it? Try and appeal to last minute customers. And I'm just like, no. Last minute customers are a certain kind of customer. The arsey ones. The ones who have left it to the last minute and are stressing about it, and you are going to get that stress, even though they are the ones that left it to the last minute. Nope. Not for me. I want to enjoy my Christmas, not deal with someone else's tomfoolery. That's not the word that's going through my head, but I want to keep this video monetized, so yeah, in short, my review, my personal mid-year review is that things have increased, things are going up. Unfortunately, that also includes my outgoings. So even though I am making more revenue, more profit, more sales, in terms of what's coming in and what's going out, I'm still in pretty much the same position as I was this time last year, which sucks so hard. The reason why I'm thinking about changing certain parts of my business, which includes bringing in a third income stream with the course, is because the way that I've built my business up to this level, which is what I wanted to do to get my revenue up to the level that it was, I've kind of hit a ceiling. So now that my outgoings have gone up again, I can't increase my income by just doing more of what I'm already doing, if that makes sense. That's the problem with making handmade products, physical handmade products, is that there is a cap to what you can do, unfortunately, which I guess is why everybody's into print on demand and digital products, because it's a bit more, what's the word? There's no cap. It's what I'm trying to say. It's capless. There is not enough coffee in this coffee. But like I said, it's launch day, so I probably should have left this podcast to tomorrow. But it's Friday. I usually have my videos filmed by now, and I was starting to feel a little bit itchy-brained with the fact that nothing was filmed ready. And I did think about taking next week off, but I don't want to. I actually really enjoy doing these podcast episodes, and I think I pushed back the podcast episode a month or so ago, and I didn't enjoy that at all. So waffly and incoherent is what you've got this month. I'm very sorry. Before I go, I thought I would talk very briefly about sales, because I know that everybody is a bit antsy at the moment because sales are down. Money coming in can be quite awkward, not helped by Etsy's recent tomfoolery, there's that word again, with the payment reserves. But sales have been pretty consistent. July last month was interesting because it was the first month that I didn't make any organic sales on my website, but my Etsy organic sales increased. And like I said earlier, I'm not doing anything. So that was interesting. And then August, I didn't make any sales well, I think I've made my first sales both on Etsy and my website the last couple of days. Why? Because this absolute muppet ran out of one of the most important pieces of material that I need for my items. And so I had to take down almost all of them, all of the listings down, so that nobody would buy them until I had got materials so that I could fulfill any orders that came in. And then, just before I sat down to film this podcast, I went into the back end of my Etsy shop and realised that 2 of my best sellers, I hadn't relisted them. Because I like to manually list my items so that when it sells out, it's like a physical nudge that, you know, I've sold this thing, so make sure you have enough to fulfill the next one that you list, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It's just, it works for me. But for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't relist them. And it just, like I said, they're only my best sellers, so it's no big deal. If I can make some really daft mistakes like that and still make sales, I know you can. All right, we are at the end. How do I know that? Because my coffee cup is empty. Seeing as these are videos for the community, you get to shape what it's going to look like in the future. If there is anything that you would like to see me cover, let me know. If there's anything that you think, you know, could be fun, something fun for us all to do every month, also let me know. Just to give you the heads up, I have not forgotten about the episode that I will be doing with my husband. That is still on the cards. It's just, has anybody else got a partner who's got a lot to say until they're being filmed and then all of a sudden they're mute? So that episode hasn't been made yet because I need to try and think of a topic and questions that I can put to him that will encourage him to speak. He's very funny when he gets going. Maybe I need to film it in the evening after he's had a beer. But then the light will be crap. Worse than this. If you think it's bad with me being washed out, Nothing looks worse than artificial light that makes everything yellow. So if you do have any ideas for topics for this podcast, then do let me know. And come and let me know how business is for you. Are you getting on okay with any goals that you set yourself at the beginning of this year? Or like me, are your goalposts being moved far, far away? Come and let me know in the comments and we'll have a chat. And until next time, ta-ta.